the LETSHUOER Cadenza 12 2024 edition. Let's talk about it. This is sent to me as a tour unit from a friend, Thaslaya. He is a fellow headfire, and you can see his reviews on his blog and on Headfi, and he's one of the best photographers on all of Headfi. This is a 12 driver IEM with branded drivers for those that are interested in that, and it is a nice IEM. Let's start by talking about the build quality of this IEM. The unboxing experience is quite nice. It comes with this giant box you see here. There's also this statue that I actually didn't get for this tour, but we did get that box. This is the smaller box where you can keep your IEMs in this box. It is a nice box. I like the fit and feeling of it. I did try to use that from my review because I felt like, it kind of gives an idea of whether this would be good. But, when you get the cable in this, it's kind of hard to put this cable in this box. It's just like maybe a little bit smaller. You'll have to really wrap it tight. And that's the cable without the IEMs on it. Now when you put the IEMs on it and we wrap these up, it's also a little bit hard to put it in there. So let's kind of take a look here, and as we put it in there, it this time it does well, but a lot of times with my tips on it in particular, it kind of just stays open just a little bit, like you can kind of see that right there. I mean, that's fine. It's just a little bit of feedback as this cable is extremely stiff and not very pliable, but it is a nice and beautiful looking cable, and I'm sure they put a lot of time and energy into the design of it. For the cable, you have white and red connectors indicating right and left. It has a nice chin slider that stays in place. I like the fit and feel of the top part of this cable, but it kind of shifts, and that's kind of a trend as of late. And it terminates in a 4.4, but you can change this out to basically any kind of connector that you want. It does come with a 3.5 and a 2.5 as well, which you can kind of see here. So that's a good thing for people that need a switchable terminal cable, and this is a good one. So let's take a look at the shell of this IEM. Now I'm kind of mixed on this shell. It is comfortable, but I have lost like 4 ear tips. They've just kind of gone flying off my off the handle when I put them on this nozzle. So that's kind of something that drives me a little bit crazy, but I learned after like the 4th one and finally stopped losing them, but it was a little bit of a concern. Now it is contoured very nicely. The nozzle isn't very wide. It fits in my ear very well. It is nicely made, and it's a fingerprint magnet, but it is a beautiful IEM nonetheless. I mean, it's vented, it feels good in ear, it is metal, it is just weighty enough that it's not too heavy, but you can kind of sense it and feel it in ear. Has a nice lip here. I mean, the shape and comfort on this IEM are fine and nice, and I do feel this is a good IEM shell. Let's talk sound of this IEM. Now, as far as sound signature goes, I would call this neutral with a gentle bass boost. It doesn't have a thunderous amount of bass, but the bass that it has is good quality. It has crispy highs and detailed, and it has extended clean treble. It is a nice set, and it does have a nice sound, but if I had to describe how it is to my ear, it would be a little bit relaxed, a little bit chill, a little bit on that neutral side. I do like a lot of bass, more so than I think a lot of people do. I do like a little bit more upper mids than a lot of people do. And so for me, this does feel slightly relaxed. I think for a lot of audiophiles, this is going to be the creme de la creme, and a lot of people are really going to like this IEM. So it's kind of goes in kind of a weird direction for me. But let's look at some graphs then as we further talk about sound. All right, let's look at the graph of the Cadenza 12. It is a nice looking graph. It is a little bit lean in the bass, which isn't necessarily bad. Its upper mids and treble are a little bit, I don't know, not super exciting. It does have a nice recession from 5 to 6K, but I mean, mainly, in some ways that's not always a good thing or a bad thing, kind of depending on your taste. But overall, it is a very nice graph with like a little bit of extension from this 15 to 20K. But again, it's a nice, energetic, clean, technical sound, but it doesn't really have a lot of punch and pizzazz. And I think this is a very strong IEM, but it may not be for everyone. As we look at some other IEMs, like this reminds me a little bit of the Dunu Mirai. The Dunu Mirai had a little bit more of this sub bass, at least on my graph. It's one of those IEMs that graphs extremely well, but it's not necessarily one that I'm just like absolutely in love with. But I do recognize that the Cadenza 4 is a really, really strong set and really, really nice. And in ear, it sounds fantastic, but a little bit laid back in the bass department, and it has some minor glitches like that. All right, let's compare the Cadenza 12 versus the Critical Dusk. And I know that's kind of not a fair comparison because of price, and according to some people, but I think it's important to look at other IEMs or what might work for people. For me, they have very similar tonalities, but for me, the Dusk kind of lacked that excitement factor. And that's kind of a little bit what the Cadenza 12 has. That it has that just little bit pulled back, recessed nature, but it's a nice graph, a nice curve. It's technically really good, and it's good in ear, but it's just not super exceptional and engaging, despite being a fun, good sounding IEM. I want to compare this to a few things, like the Monarch. Like, look how close this is to the Monarch Mark II. Again, I have two Monarchs that I've measured on my rig. This is the original Monarch I reviewed, I graphed not too long, like about a year ago. And then this is the one that I recently bought. And you can tell there's like a little bit of differences here, but like the Cadenza 12, just it doesn't have a ton of bass. It doesn't have like a ton of energy. But if you just notice like how close it is in that whole grand scheme of things, it's like you could almost someone say that the Cadenza 12 and the Monarch Mark II are like the same IEMs. You'd almost believe them. So there's a lot of similarities between the two, and I wanted to kind of point that out. Another thing to look at, there's some other IEMs that I think are really good. Like, I think, for me, if you take something like the Dunu Brain Dance, I really like the Dunu Brain Dance, especially if you throw in an impedance adapter. I think it really gets to be a lot of fun with a ton of bass, and it really hits that organic richness for me. And it has a little bit of a lift from 5 to 6K, which I think can be advantageous and can give a little bit of detail and air. I think the big thing is like having a nice dip right around this 4 to 5K. And it's kind of a slight alteration in tuning philosophy that I've kind of had as of late, that like sometimes colorizations of this set of sets can add spark, imagination, detail. And like, well, the Cadenza 12, if you are looking for a neutral set and you're looking for something that's very nice and clean and pure and good, this is a good set, but it may not be for everyone. I've got to the chance to review a lot of other IEMs, like the Fat Frequency Grand Maestro SC. I kind of will go with the Cadenza 12. I think the SC is a good set. It has a ton of bass, but also has a ton of this upper air and treble. And I do think the Cadenza 12 just in ear sounds more neutral and nice. And like the Grand Maestro SC just kind of goes a little bit too much for me. That's just something to point out. I mean, even the Fat Frequency Grand Maestro Blue, and you can find this for about the same price used, depending on a few things. But you'll notice like this is the blue setting where it has just kind of about that same tonality. And this is the black setting where it has a ton more. And you can kind of see that, like, I like the black setting because it had a little bit of bass, but also has a little bit of energy here too. And so it's just something kind of to note and kind of to look at as something kind of to consider. One IEM that, even though they're ranked the same on my ranking list, the Symphonium X Elise Audio Europa. This is one of my favorite IEMs because it adds a little bit of fun. You'll notice how close are these two. Well, I think that that permits or the presence region is just a little bit more pronounced, which is nice but hardly recognizable. You'd also have a little bit more of this upper mid treble region with this nice little dip around 4 to 4.5K. Again, also nice. Everything here looks almost identical, but you'll notice just a little bit more lifted sub bass, which is really nice. So that's just kind of something to consider if that's if you're in this price range, you're looking between the two, and you're like, oh, they're the same on the ranking list. I'm gonna have to tell you clearly that I would go with the Europa. But it's close, and I haven't done a full unboxing of the Europa, so I don't know exactly what's in it. But from a sonic perspective and A being, I do like the Europa a little bit better, but I recognize the Cadenza 12 as a really high quality IEM as well. Other things to look at that are like right around this price category, kind of depending, maybe a little cheaper. The Diva, it's coming up. I have an Apostle coming in, which is pretty exciting. And you can just tell that like there's a lot of similarities here, but like the mids on the Cadenza 12, even though they kind of have this little bit of colorization, I think on the Diva they're just done a lot better and a little bit more expressive and just exciting. I think the Diva is one of those things where like you can just kind of point out the mids, they are better on that set. Another one I really liked was the Visioneers 12, and this is like a $3,000 set from Germany. And I really like how much mid bass this has. I feel like its air and presence and just kind of soundstage is just really, really impressive. I mean, granted, the Visioneers 10 is very expensive as well, and it's after a certain point they're very. It's hard to explain. I'm not trying to say that all expensive IEMs are good, but it's nice to see when you can see some IEMs that are good and they do have some similar tuning philosophies. But the Visioneers 10 is like an exciting, a little bit more interesting set for me. That's a little bit more of a balanced sound that I think is more fun. Whereas, Cadenza 12 is just a little bit more lean and a little bit less exciting in that regards. Another one I wanted to point out is the Volume S, and I've been A-Bing this, and for me, for a tuning philosophy standpoint, I like the Volume S more. There's certain things about the Cadenza 12, like a refinement to the sound. The upper air and frequencies are very nice. But I think, sometimes there are cheaper IEMs out there that could really do it for you. And that's, the Volume S is a very strong, very nice IEM for people to consider. I did add a little bit of EQ, and I just EQ'd this to my target, which really didn't do that much. I mean, it just added a little bit of a lift to this upper mids and this bass, and that really helped bring this guy alive. And so I think that's something to consider. If you want to try, if you have the Cadenza 4 and you want to try something out, I think this target will help you get a little bit more fun out of your IEM. All right, the Cadenza 12. Let's bring this up. This is kind of a funny one. Like, I've ping-ponged a lot about the bass and the mids, but I feel like this would be one of those cases where I really wanted to do decimals, but I didn't. But I probably would give these almost like an 8.5, or the mids like an 8.5 if I were to use decimals. The Cadenza 12 does have good bass, and it really has nice dynamics. It does have good mids, but there is a sense of lack of excitement. Like, it reminds me a lot of the Noble Chronicle, where it's just a little bit relaxed in that regard, and that's kind of part of my concern. It does image well, but again, without that bass being there for me, it does feel a little bit dry, a little bit recessed. Its note weight's really nice and thumpy, and it's a good sounding set, and it's a wide open, nice, spacious sounding set, but it's not really a set that is made for engagement. It's just made to be a neutral good set. A solid, classy, engaging set that plays it a little bit safe. It has a lot of great qualities and a lot of fun things about this IEM, but it does play it safe. It is neutral, and it's not going to be for everybody. If you're a bass head or you're a mid head and you really want something extravagant, you might be happier with other things that are a little bit cheaper. But this does have nice detail, it does have nice air, and it does have a nice graph overall, and it does get a recommendation for those that are looking for it, knowing the things that I've tried to explain on how it sounds in ear today. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Oh, you're expecting a teaser for our next video. Well, we don't have that kind of money. What are you expecting? One of those store reviewers to show up in a saucy little leather number? Go. Oh, I can tell you one thing. We are going to have a collab video. We have no idea what it's going to be. Probably Kryn, maybe Chris, or Joyce. Don't deny it. She's got range. Go. Get out of here. Go.
Go!
Go.
Go on with you!